All right, welcome back. We continue live right here, Pittsburgh CW and 937 The Fan. Bob Pompeani, Chris Mueller. So Deontay Johnson is potentially playing some hardball with the Steelers, Chris. And we see wide receivers all over the league getting ridiculous amounts of money, starting with Devontae Adams, and then was Tyreek Hill. And then, I mean, you go down through the list. There's so many of them on that list. And maybe the one that stands out to me is Christian Kirk, only because I look at his numbers and I see not someone worthy of that money. However, all of these guys are in the 2019 class now want that sort of treatment. Should the Steelers go that far with Deontay Johnson to the tune of maybe in excess of $20 million a year?
I wouldn't do it. I don't think they should do it. I think Christian Kirk's deal ruined this for the rest of teams trying to negotiate with guys who are pretty much in all cases probably. I think even Deontay Johnson's probably a little better than Christian Kirk. I think actually a lot better, or considerably clearly better than Christian Kirk. It's just messed everything up. I mean, it's such an outlier deal. We had somebody on the show today say that they think that the NFL's other teams might just view that as toss it in the trash. It's the Jaguars being really stupid, and we're not even going to acknowledge it. But Deontay Johnson's not top of the league money. He's not a top of the league wide receiver. I could name, if you let me rattle them off here, Bob, I think I could name at least 12 receivers in the AFC alone that I would rather have than Deontay Johnson. And I don't think he's a bad football player when I'm saying that, but he's closer to like a $13 million guy. Would you take any of the Bengals' big three over him? I would put Boyd ahead of him. Would you take Tyreek Hill over him? No. Would you take Devontae Adams over him? No. Mike Williams on the Chargers, that guy averaged 20.5 yards a catch for a season.
Yep.
He got paid, and he's better than him. Would you take, let me think, like Jerry Jeudy
How about,
on the Broncos? No.
A.J. Brown?
A.J. Brown's another one. Jalen Waddle's another one. Stephon Diggs is another
Right.
one. Every one of these guys is a better receiver than him. And that's not a knock on Deontay Johnson so much as it is, I think, a statement of fact. He is a good receiver, like a good number two. He is by no means a great number two or a number one. So I think you have to compensate him as such.
Yep, I would agree with that. I think he has to be realistic about it, but maybe he won't be. And if not, then the Steelers have something to do. I think they're going to draft a wide receiver at some point of this draft anyway, so we'll see what happens, because that will not take place until they get some other stuff done, specifically the draft first. And then I think Minkah Fitzpatrick's another guy who has to be, that deal has to be done before they look into his direction. Let's go out to George in Wexford, who joins us tonight on our hotline, sponsored by Bordas & Bordas. What's up, George?
Bob, good evening. You've been asking me to call. I finally got in. I love your comedic prowess. Put a big smile on my face.
George, glad you called from Wexford.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I agree with not overpaying for Deontay Johnson. The one thing I wanted to talk about was the overreach of getting a quarterback who's not really definitively first-round material. If you look back at the historical quarterback winners of Super Bowls, the vast majority are pocket passers. I think there's an enamorment with this mobility factor, but it really hasn't come to fruition for the most part. Mahomes maybe.
Patrick Mahomes is a pretty mobile guy. Josh Allen's one of the best in the league. He's very mobile.
Yeah, but I understand when he said about overreaching. I think that's going to be ultimately what the Steelers either do or don't do. Because if they select a quarterback who may fall to them, and it's not maybe Kenny Pickett, if it's not Malik Willis, and they do take somebody ahead, because I've seen mock drafts, Chris, that indicate, maybe they're interested in Ritter at the 20th pick, maybe not. But if they would do that, to me, that would signify a reach, only because I don't know enough about him, in my view anyway. I don't think he's a guaranteed franchise
Ritter
quarterback.
to me is, are you talking about Ritter?
Yeah,
I think he's
Ritter.
the second best quarterback athletically in this draft, and I think he has a lot of similar traits to Pickett as far as built that whole program up around him and brought them to greater heights than they had ever been. People talk about just the makeup, the character stuff with him is off the charts in the way that teams want and care about. Very mature kid. But I think with that athletic profile and with all those leadership tools you hear about, he would be a much higher pick, but for a fatal flaw. It seems that everybody, even the people that love him, say he's just not accurate enough right now to be a high first-round pick. I asked Mike Renner over at Pro Football Focus when he was on the show today, Bob, I said, would Malik Willis, who's their number one quarterback on their board, would he have been behind all five guys taken in the first round last year? And he said, yeah, he would have been. So think about it this way. Do you look at Mac Jones and see a guy, granted, they could surround him with weapons in the way that the Patriots do, but when you look at Mac Jones, do you see like a future Super Bowl champion? I do not. I see somebody that's way behind the actual best in the league and probably will never get there. If Willis would have been behind him in a hypothetical draft, like, doesn't that tell you what all of these guys probably are? That was a little bit of an eye-opener for me and kind of has me on guard about this.
I agree. I think Jones is probably one of those guys who can be efficient if you give him the right things around him and a good defense, and he was. But beyond that, I don't know. I can't make that judgment. Let's go to Jim in Mount Lebanon. Jim, how you doing? Welcome.
Hey, Bob, how you doing? Hi, Chris. Hey, Bob, I think with Smith in there now, I think he's going to take the Penguins far in the playoffs. And the Pirates are doing good. I think it's going to go over 62.5 because I bet over 62.5. I think all they're going to do is win 58 games out of 152 games left.
Yeah, well, that seems like it would be easy to do unless you're a team that has a lot of guys who you're not sure. I mean, the Pirates, I give them credit for so far, 5 wins, 5 comebacks. They've shown grit, as Chris said. But, man, they've started, like, how many right fielders? Every day there's somebody new out there. Shortstop, second base, third base.
Can we never see Hoy Park out there ever again,
well,
please?
After what happened over the
Hoy
weekend.
Oh, that was pain. That was like watching somebody do a bad job at the Pizza Hut pop-up. I know,
Yeah.
I know.
I don't know.
It was just tough to watch.
The only guy I want to see regularly right now is Diego Castillo. I think that guy has a little moxie to him. He had a lot of home runs last year in the Yankee system for a second baseman, and he had 6, I believe, in the spring here. So he earned a spot. Just ride him, right? If you get a hot guy like that, why not ride him?
Yeah, I'd like to see him get his at-bats. I don't want the Pirates to try to get turned off by the idea, he might struggle, and this is his first taste of the real show. I just want them to let these guys play. Unless it gets catastrophically bad, let them play. By the way, how much longer are we going to go with Jim's calls before? At one point, I just want Jim to call in with like an exacta, a superfecta from some random horse race. I just want to hear him say 4 thoroughbred names I've never heard before and just have it as his superfecta. That's what I would like.
All right. Well, right now, let's give John in Bridgeville an opportunity to talk before we go to a break here. John, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yes, Bob. I'd like to talk about the Pirates. It seems to me that they're just lost in right field, just like the previous caller had said. And like Park and
well, they put Cole Tucker up there. They put
Doesn't it
Marisnick,
remind?
they
Does
put
Bob?
Gamble.
Doesn't it remind you guys of in Little League? I mean, I would occasionally get put out in Little League in right field, but that was always what you worked to avoid, was being the right fielder, or the coach would put the kid out in right field because it was a trap to the other team and the kid was actually good on defense to get them to hit the ball out there. But let's be honest, right field is traditionally where the kids who are more interested in the grass growing around their feet will play.
Right.
And it shouldn't be that way in the major leagues, and the fact that it has all too often resembled that for the first 10 games is a very, 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 very bad sign for the Pirates.
Bad sign if you're a Mueller fan tonight. We'll get into that when we come back. 412-575-2600 right here on the Sports Call. Don't go away.